All right. Hi, hello. How are you? So, as every person does, on a daily basis, it's very, very common. I was strolling through the Brat section in Walmart, and I just started thinking about Titan Havik. It happens to us all, very common occurrence. I wanted to try and do a video because if I didn't, then I'm just gonna forget about it forever and just gonna enter the depths. As for the editing for this video, it's not gonna be very crazy. YouTube always demonetizes me if I have Titan Havik within like a 10-mile radius of my video. And yeah, with that said, let's talk about Titan Havik.
Stop touching things.
So everything that I thought about with Titan Havik, of course, sprouted from Armageddon. And Armageddon in Chapter 15 in MK1 is, without a doubt, one of the more polarizing and up to interpretation kind of weird story beats that they've done in a while. Because of the way that they formatted that chapter where you can pick any character and all of that kind of stuff, it does kind of mess with what is real and what isn't real. Because in theory, Liu Kang should have just been able to go to the top of the pyramid and domain expansion and kill Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, but that didn't happen. And it ended up being, I don't know, Syzoth or, Melina or whoever killed Shang Tsung or helped kill Shang Tsung. So that's very interesting to think about, but anyway, let's put that aside for now. One of the things I think is very consistent and something that does need to be taken away from that Armageddon chapter is what Liu Kang says to you, the player. So we know from Garrus earlier in the story that when a Titan dies, they die for sure, right? They're completely dead. They're never coming back. And it appears that that is what Liu Kang had done to Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, assuming they're both Titans, of course. And we're not entirely sure. It seems that Liu Kang was able to erase them or something. So I'm assuming in that moment, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi both died, right? But then Liu Kang mentions that the timeline is collapsing, and that's why he has to return you to your timeline. And this does imply a few things. So whenever a Titan that was harboring in a timeline owned by a Titan, when that Titan dies, their timeline gets destroyed, it collapses, it falls to pieces, okay? And the other thing is that Liu Kang basically let all of the timelines still exist. So it seems that Liu Kang's power or something was able to return everybody back to their original timeline. So Liu Kang didn't try and make an effort to destroy these timelines or close them off or something like that. Maybe he did make an effort to make it to where the timelines can't intersect anymore and they can't interfere with each other. That would make sense. So instead of getting rid of the timelines or instead of trying to make it to where there's one concurrent timeline, it seems that Liu Kang was content with letting, of course, all of these timelines exist. It's not his place to judge that, right? He is only a Titan in a wheel of a bunch of other Titans that has to keep on moving and moving and moving. But with that said, from Armageddon, we sprouted Titan Havik. He arrives in Shang Tsung's timeline, the one that should have been corrupted and destroyed. I wonder why that is in the story. I was strolling through the fucking bread or something, I don't remember. And I was like, damn, how is he there? How is he on the pyramid? I don't know why they did that. I feel like maybe it was an oversight and they didn't think about that, how they said that in the dialogue and then they had the post-credit scene and all that. I don't know. But regardless, Titan Havik does
show himself
for the first time from the rubble of Armageddon. And all of these people didn't get to be returned to their timeline because they all died, of course. So I wonder how many people actually kind of stayed intact and were able to return to their timeline. I'm assuming that Titans didn't die. I'd have to expect that Titan Katana, Kung Lao, Raiden, obviously Liu Kang, they all still exist and they're all still alive, but who knows?
Pineapple on pizza is good.
So Titan Havik, I think that his existence is okay, I'm okay with it. It definitely was something that we didn't expect, at least I know I didn't expect upon my first watch. I was watching it in the Discord, shout out to the Discord. If you guys haven't joined, the link is in the description, but anyway. Basically, we were having a watch party of the story when it first came out, and we were shocked because it had no build up to that moment. Titan Havik was not, foreshadowed in any way. If anything, Havik in the main story kind of took a back seat compared to other characters. But actually, looking at it now, I think that Titan Havik's involvement in the story and him being added to this world actually makes Havik from our timeline a bit of a better character now. He makes him a bit better in comparison, or in contrast, or in hindsight. Forgive me, chat, I don't know the English language, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is the fact that our Havik, right, he is the embodiment of Havik in the new era. But we have to remember that every timeline has differences from the last, and that's why we have Kuai Liang as Hanzo, or in Scorpion, Hanzo's place, right, and stuff like that. Everything is different in every timeline. So the fact that Dairu, who was somebody from Sado, who ended up wanting to reject Sado and turn from Sado, he embodied what Havik needed to embody in this new era. So he became became Havik. It became more of a mantle instead of it being his actual identity. Whereas we can assume that Titan Havik is Havik. He was never Dairu. He was never another character. He is Havik. And that brings another interesting element here because it's like, so we know that everything exists in the same timeline. So for example, there's a Scorpion in every timeline. In our new timeline, it happens to be Kuai Liang. In other timelines, it's Hanzo. So when you keep that in mind, it seems that there is going to be a constant in every timeline, but up until like that constant becomes something tangible, it has room to change and morph and shift into different outcomes, I guess, if that makes sense. I'm sorry if this isn't making sense. This video is unscripted. It's very off the cuff. So with that said, right, we now have Dairu in our new timeline that is Havik, but he isn't the true Havik. And Titan Havik does seem to embody the true Cleric of Chaos, the true Havik. And there's a few things I want to say about that as well, because it is, again, we know nothing about him right now, so it is up to interpretation. We were basically under the impression that every Titan that was in the new game, right, it was in the new era, rather, sprouted from the battle for the Hourglass. So every character had a timeline where they defeated Kronika and became the Keeper of Time. That's kind of weird to consider for Havik specifically because he isn't in MK11, right? It doesn't mean that there was never a timeline where Havik was able to do that, but I wonder if there's actually a separate circumstance for Havik becoming a Titan. And I think that that is kind of feasible. If we look back into the 3D era, Havik wanted chaos among the realms. I don't want to say he necessarily wanted to tear down everything and destroy it, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that was really his thing. I'm specifically basing my mentality off of the Deception Conquest mode. However, there is a comic book series as well that I've never read, but maybe I'll read that and do a video on it or something soon. But regardless, Havik didn't necessarily want to destroy everything. He just wanted to abolish order. He thought that order was unjust and not needed for the people, right? And I think we can comfortably assume that this Titan Havik originates from a timeline where everything has now become Chaos Realm. And I love that idea a lot, not because it's really cool and it brings back Chaos Realm, but because of the kind of contrast that that creates with the new era and Titan Havik's era. So in the new era, it seems that Chaos Realm doesn't exist, and that's why our physical embodiment of Havik, being Dairu, wants to kind of abolish Sado, and in turn is creating a chaotic realm, right? Or is destroying one realm to create another. So like, it just kind of happens that way. Havik wants to abolish Sado, and in turn is creating something that he didn't even know existed, in this case being Chaos Realm, right? But anyway, so if Titan Havik has every single realm under his belt, and it all has become Chaos Realm, then he basically won. So in his timeline, he basically got with the 3D era Havik, the original Havik, what he wanted. So I wonder if there could have been another means for Havik to become a Titan after he conquered all of the realms. I don't know how necessarily realistic that is, especially with if merging realms is something against the Elder Gods, etc, etc. In every different timeline, every set of Elder Gods is going to be different, but we don't really know because it was implied that there was only one consistent and one concurrent timeline up until the battle for the Hourglass. But I don't really believe that this Havik is the one that defeated Kronika. I guess it's possible. I don't even know, man. They don't explain enough for me to really believe that, but it's probably what they're going to start saying. They're probably going to go with that route that Titan Havik did defeat Kronika in his timeline, but who knows. But I do enjoy that idea, and I think it creates this like interesting dichotomy between the new era and Titan Havik's era, where we have no Chaos Realm versus entirety, like the entirety all Chaos Realm. And I'm sure that's going to create this kind of tension with Liu Kang specifically, considering that he's going to have to face this threat head on and do something about it, especially if Titan Havik is able to recruit people like Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, Bihan, and we don't really know his motive as of right now. For reference, I have not seen any of the leaks for like the story, and I don't really plan on reading those. Let me be in my Delulu era and talk about some theories, please. I would expect that Titan Havik invading Shang Tsung's dead timeline, this timeline that should have been destroyed, I don't know how he did that again. Him being able to do this, I think, is like him seeing that chaos is able to be widespread enough among different realms. Like, he's able to see chaos on such a huge scale that he wants that. You know, he desires to see that happen again. He wants to see that unfold once more. And so he's able to set his sights on other timelines in order to destroy them. But specifically Liu Kang's timeline, out of the dozens of timelines, that's where it kind of gets muddy. Like, why is that what he chooses? And of course, the obvious answer is for storytelling and for the plot, but I'd have to say that I'm expecting Liu Kang to have left some type of remnants or something behind in Shang Tsung's timeline where Havik was able to track him down or try and find a way to conquer his timeline. And even if he doesn't conquer it right off the bat, maybe he's able to do something with I don't know, like the time crystals or the hourglass or even the Kamidogu, if those even exist and matter anymore. I really hope they do. The Kamidogu is something I really love seeing, of course, being somebody who loves deception. The Kamidogu would just be so cool to see. But again, we're kind of like beyond the Kamidogu in some ways, like with the hourglass existing and time travel and timelines, the Kamidogu kind of existing as these relics of the realms and these pieces of the one being. It kind of is only for the one singular realm, right? And now that there's so many different timelines with different realms and all that kind of stuff, it does make it seem a bit smaller in comparison now, but I really hope that they're able to implement them in some way. But with Titan Havik specifically, again, I would assume that he wants to create this type of Chaos Realm for Liu Kang's timeline as well. Again, I don't really see what his direct motive would be there, outside of just wanting to incite chaos so that he can see something happen like Armageddon. If that was the case, I would expect him to want to attack every timeline. So that's going to be interesting to see, stakes and the heights of his actual plan. Like, is he going to just start attacking one by one all of the timelines and create chaos within them? And you know what I mean? Like, is that what he's gonna do? Is that his overall plan? Because it would be kind of weird if he only goes for Liu Kang's timeline, because like that's it, you know what I mean? Like that would be one timeline to conquer. And if he is enamored with what happened with Armageddon, that was a fight and this battle that spread across multiple dozens of timelines. So if he wants to scratch that itch and kind of have that fulfillment again, he's going to have to conquer much more than just one realm. So that is something I am interested in seeing how they tackle that. But I do think that Titan Havik, just again his existence, changes the future and rocks the foundation of the timeline stuff. And I think that this is very much so needed because, you know, Ed Boon kind of lied to us in a lot of ways. And people will say it's trolling, but no, like this is just flat out lying about MK1 not being a sequel to MK11. That was a lie. That was the biggest lie ever told by mankind. MK1 is without a doubt a continuation of MK11. It basically is MK11 Aftermath Part 2, and it finally finished the last villain, Shang Tsung, from MK11. So Titan Havik is the first actual villain of the new era. He is going to set the standard for a villain going forward, and he's also going to change, again, this already predetermined, established perception that we have about the timelines. I think if Titan Havik is able to muddy that water and make us feel kind of uncertain about where this is going, then I'm very happy with that. When Kronika became the main villain in MK11, there was this level of uncertainty of what would happen with the timeline and what would happen with, you know, everything involving that. So when MK11 ended or an MK11 Aftermath happened, we were able to kind of see the pattern. We were able to kind of identify what exactly creates a timeline issue, what exactly makes the timelines dictate how the story shapes itself. And we started seeing the Crown, you know, Garrus, and all these things that fed into the timeline plot point, this predetermined notion, right, of how things are going to go. But Titan Havik is a curveball we could have never saw coming. I think that he is going to be able to change the landscape of the time travel aspect. That goes for many reasons. Like, how was he able to step foot in Shang Tsung's destroyed quote-unquote timeline? Why was he specifically able to be there in Armageddon after we presumably had all of the timelines go back to normal? Like, what are these stipulations here that makes Titan Havik above other Titans? And I think that a lot of that might have to go with the way he became a Titan. And that's why I was saying, like, maybe he didn't defeat Kronika and he isn't a victim of the timeline breaking the fabric of reality or whatever and sprouting new timelines. Maybe he became a Titan in some other means, and his timeline is something that is completely unexplored, and we really have no existing perception of what Titan Havik can be. And that's something that I really love about him in this new era. And I think that Titan Havik is going to be an interesting character. It just depends on how they want to tackle, again, him being a Titan. Because we already have a pre-established notion of how Titans are going to fight, of how Titans affect the story and affect the future outcomes of the timelines and all that kind of stuff. And we know that not only from MK11, but Aftermath and also MK1's ending. So I'm very interested in seeing where this goes. I hope that he is a menacing villain and isn't there just to destroy Liu Kang's timeline for whatever reason. Because like I said, if he is truly enamored with the idea of chaos on a widespread level like Armageddon, then he has to incite more havoc and, you know, violence than just one timeline. This has to be something that spreads across multiple realities. But upon what happens here with Titan Havik, I just hope that we kind of come to this resolve of the timeline, or of timelines being able to merge, because again, my initial thoughts with Titan Havik was that he somehow was able to break through this timeline barrier or something, and he was able to invade another timeline. And again, that shouldn't really be possible, or it shouldn't be something that happens frequently, and we know that because of the way that Garrus reacts when finding out about Shang Tsung or about Kronika in MK1 story mode. He's like, why is somebody from another timeline in our timeline? How's that possible? And that was also because they didn't know that other timelines existed. But I think that now that we know that other timelines exist, Liu Kang wants to find a way to close off, the gateways to other timelines. So I believe that Titan Havik has a specific means or specific powers that allow him to kind of jump between timelines. But I don't know. That's just a bunch of random stuff I wanted to talk about. But I guess the key things that I want to take away from this is we have to keep in mind the ending of MK1 is kind of up to interpretation and can change in the future. Also, Titan Havik is an anomaly. He doesn't seem like he's going to be a standard Titan, and so we should be prepared for that. And then also him being able to step foot in Shang Tsung's destroyed timeline. I don't know how that happened. Dairu in the new era. I think that his character becomes better now that Titan Havik exists, because this Havik, for all we know, could be the 3D era Havik, and he was able to stumble into Titanhood or whatever, and then Dairu is just a byproduct of the spirit of Havik, or the embodiment of Havik materializing itself in the new era. Yeah, I don't know, that was just me rambling for a while. If you guys made it to the end of this video, then let me know in a comment by saying something silly, wacky, and quirky. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. This video was not scripted and is gonna have lazy visuals, so this is kind of just like a community question video. I want to try and gauge your guys' theories on Titan Havik in the comments and that kind of stuff. And ladies, gentlemen, and MB beauties, make sure you guys stay safe and stay hydrated, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.